factory today to see the difference quality customer service makes. OriginalMattress.com.
Last night, it was probably 10:30 when I opened Twitter, and I was just absolutely dumbfounded at what I was reading. I was dumb. I seriously. So the first thing I did was call John. John.
I was sleeping.
He was unavailable.
Sorry. That's
and
10:30.
so then I called him again, thinking he had Do Not Disturb on, and he was trying to screen his calls for me. I called him again, still no response.
I was sleeping.
So finally I texted him, and I said, are you, oh my gosh, are you awake?
Nope.
Nothing.
Not till this morning.
Nothing. Anyway, just reading about the possibility that Roe versus Wade might be overturned, the fact that the opinion was leaked, the fact that the opinion isn't finalized, the fact that it's all over social media and major news outlets. It's 10:30 at night on a Monday. It's outrageous. So now it's Tuesday. It's the 4:00 hour, and people are kind of trying to figure out what it all means.
It's an awful lot to take in, isn't it? Chelsea Sobolek is back with us. She's Director of Public Policy for the Ethics and Religious Liberty Commission of the Southern Baptist Church. And she has followed this story as well as other stories concerning pro-life issues and the court. Chelsea, welcome back to the show.
Thanks so much for having me.
So, Chelsea, were you like me? Did you see this on social last night?
I did. The text started rolling in and jaw on the floor. It is hard to overstate how unprecedented this is. The Supreme Court has prided themselves on how trustworthy of an institution they are, and they do not have leaks like this. It is extraordinarily rare for this to happen. So, number one, for an opinion to be leaked at all is extraordinary. And number two, for it to be a leaked draft opinion on Dobbs is just, I'm still processing it. It's a very big deal.
Yep. So it looks, apparently, from the draft as though the justices have a majority of repealing Roe versus Wade, which is unto itself
so
unbelievable
shocking. After
after all these many years of conservatives and especially Christians praying, thinking, talking about this, and the leak on top of it. I mean, it's like a 1-2 punch. And what's interesting, Chelsea, is a lot of people are going, the leak is not important. Don't talk about the leak, which I find hard to believe.
How can you not talk about the leak?
Right? I mean,
exactly.
Yeah. I mean, just the fact, though, that the court is, saying soon and very soon we may lose Roe versus Wade, that unto itself is culturally cataclysmic.
It is. And, so to your point, the leaked draft opinion, and it's important to know this is a draft. It's not final till it's final. This draft was dated in February, so a lot could have changed between February and now, and a lot can still change between now and when they actually officially release this opinion. But in this leaked opinion, you're right, it was a majority opinion, which means they have, or at least in February, there were the votes to overturn the precedents in Roe and Casey. And they specifically said in that opinion that Roe and Casey should be overruled and that there is no constitutional right to abortion. Mm-hmm. And we have been saying this for decades, but to see the justices affirm that there is no constitutional right to abortion. And, we will be watching very carefully to see what actually happens. I don't know if this will push up their timeline of releasing this opinion or what will happen there. But what is said in this leaked draft opinion, is very positive for the pro-life movement.
So, Chelsea, as positive as it is, and I've been involved in the anti-abortion movement for decades, my overwhelming feeling at the time was trepidation. It was not like unbridled joy and, oh my gosh, what a great celebration. It was, this is going to be so ugly. This is going to get so bad so fast. And I don't, now that I've slept on it and I don't feel any differently now because I do think there's an incredible outrage that's being expressed all over social media. It'll happen all over the country. Outside
the Supreme Court right now.
Right. So, and talk about your reaction, your feeling on that. Do you think I'm right?
So I was at the Supreme Court a couple hours ago, and there were crowds and crowds and crowds of people, lots of people on both sides rallying and protesting. But I think in some sense you are right, because if the court does release this opinion, this does not end abortion. This simply sends the issue of abortion back to the states. And over the past couple of weeks and months, we have seen states take very positive measures to protect life, but then we've also seen states pass extraordinarily progressive laws that codify a lot of these abortion protections. And like you said, continuing to be very divisive in their approach. So it's really important to note that there will still be innocent lives lost to abortion, even if the best case scenario happens and abortion is sent back to the state. So I think, our tone, while I am thankful for any law that protects life, there's still a lot of work to be done. And if this issue is sent back to the state, there will be even more vulnerable women, vulnerable preborn children, vulnerable kiddos at risk of entering into foster care systems. So it just means that the work that has been started will need to continue and to increase to care for women in need.
And Chelsea Sobolek is with us. She's Director of Public Policy for the Ethics and Religious Liberty Commission of the Southern Baptist Church. So, Chelsea, talk to us about the scene outside the Supreme Court. Interesting that you were there. I mean, people are not hoping to achieve anything there. There's got to be, is it mayhem? Is it pandemonium? Is it just people screaming at each other? Or is there some conversation happening?
It's a lot of yelling. It is a lot of yelling. There's a pretty well organized rally on from the pro-abortion side, and they had quite a lot of speakers. They had, I know Elizabeth Warren was there, and many speakers were there. So it's pretty chaotic outside the court. Something else that's really important to note that also happened in Washington today at the Capitol, just across the street at the Capitol, there was a press conference held by very liberal members of Congress who were urging not only a Senate vote on the Women's Health Protection Act. This bill passed the House earlier this year, and it is the most pro-abortion bill to have ever passed the House. It would codify a lot of the things that are in Roe and Casey. There's calls in the Senate to bring that bill to the floor, but then there were also calls to eliminate the filibuster. So the filibuster says that you need 60 votes to be able to bring legislation to the Senate floor. The filibuster eliminated would only mean 50 votes. But I'm not sure if the Senate even has that many votes to be able to pass this. But even President Biden today issued a call for Congress to pass legislation codifying these protections. So while there was a lot of rallies happening outside the Supreme Court, there were also moves on the administration's side and Congress calling for legislation.
Yeah. Well, in my opinion, from the very beginning, it should have been decided by the legislature. It shouldn't have been decided by the courts, because the American people need to be able to have a say. And so, turning it back to the state legislature, I think is the way it always should have been. I'm happy to have it. Of course, I would like for every state to decide that abortion shouldn't happen inside their state lines. But I'll be happy for whatever forward motion we can get at this point. And, I also think that this might help us to be able to hear more about people who, to kind of get a better idea on how people in our state actually look at this issue. Because, and this is a guess on my part, but I really feel like the average person is less pro-abortion than the media would portray. And so I know there's a lot of outrage right now. I'm sure there are a lot of people listening to my voice who think I'm wrong about that. But Chelsea, I guess I just want to ask your feeling on it. I feel like the average American is not as permissive when it comes to their thoughts on abortion.
Yeah, you're exactly right. Most Americans are supportive of limits on abortion and things like the Hyde Amendment that would protect American consciences and taxpayer dollars. And another thing to note, the movement is moving away from surgical abortion, so kind of traditionally walking into a Planned Parenthood and having a surgical abortion, and moving more towards the abortion pill, which there is so much risk there, not only for the health of a woman, but also for an abortion pill to be used for nefarious use, human traffickers,
Sure.
an angry boyfriend, things like that. So as we're moving to kind of a new phase in this movement, I think, a lot of people are watching that and saying, hey, that's actually very, very dangerous for a woman's health. And a lot of Americans are supportive of limits on abortion.
Amen to that. Chelsea Sobolek is with us. Hey, Chelsea, before you leave us, take a few seconds and talk to us about the Ethics and Religious Liberty Commission of the Southern Baptist Church. What do you guys do?
Yeah, so we are the public policy arm and ethics arm of the SBC, representing 15 million Southern Baptists throughout the United States. And we are their voice here in Washington, communicating the desires of Southern Baptists before the courts, before the administration, and certainly before Congress. So responding to, preparing for and responding to the Dobbs decision is top of our priority list to make sure that pastors and church leaders and Southern Baptists are ready to understand this decision, but also ready to continue serving vulnerable women and vulnerable children.
Fabulous. We can find you on the web, can we not?
Yes, absolutely.
Excellent.
We are at erlc.com.
erlc.com. Well, Chelsea, thanks an awful lot. Always informative. Happy that you're with us here today to talk about this landmark day in American history.
Thanks so much for having me.
Our pleasure. We'll take a quick break, and when we come back...
Millions of bees dying on a tarmac, and the local beekeepers came to the rescue.
Hi, I'm Al Abaroa, founder of Knight Strategic Wealth. Inflation is picking up.